Star Trek Strange New Worlds might be the most confusing show on TV right now. And by that, I mean, just in terms of its direction, its quality, which has been all over the place, its tone, it likes to alternate wildly between comedy and drama and now horror here with the start of season 4. It has been at times a clone of the Aliens franchise. It has been a musical. It will in the future be puppets. And who knows if an episode is going to be good or not before you watch it. We've talked about the show a lot previously here on Nerd Legion. And, I was experiencing existential dread at the start of the season, though, because I really disliked season 3 of this show. And so I turned it on to watch season 1. And I regret to inform you, it was actually quite good. And that is makes me feel really weird. Because this show has had episodes that I absolutely hate. And then it has had one of the best episodes, I think, in Star Trek as an entire franchise with Under the Cloak of War. But you never know what you're going to get. And the episode 2 of season 4, which is out now, I also thought was pretty good and at least interesting. So I'm confused about how exactly to rate or interpret this show, because it is just so bizarre, the level of quality that changes from episode to episode.
Yeah, and I mean, we've known this since season 1, but it keeps us coming back because there's just something about this Star Trek show in particular that they've gotten right overall, which is it has felt the most like the next generation, I think, of anything. And not that every Star Trek show needs to feel like the next generation, but it feels the most purely Star Trek in that it really kind of harkens back to like the original series, which then the next generation followed with tonally, right? Where it really is about exploring. You don't know what's going to happen week to week. It's going to be some new adventure. But the main thing is you're going to get to really know these characters over time, and that's going to let you tell more compelling stories. And the show does do that, And I think overall, as up and down as the show has been, I would wager to say we both would view it favorably. We both would say we like it. I like this show, even though I like it like a student or a child that has so much potential, but sometimes just profoundly disappoints you too, And when that puppet episode happens this season, I will probably be disappointed, but who knows? I thought the musical episode was pretty great, so maybe I'm going to be wrong. But yeah, I think the season is off to a strong start. And this is weird for us, too, because we're doing a show, we're doing an episode when there's only 2 episodes of this season out. And that's a little bit strange. Usually we wait for 3-4 episodes, maybe halfway through the season, if we do, multiple episodes for a season of a show. But I think this one's worth jumping into and talking about right away. So I'm glad we're doing it. Do you want to just...
I wanted to do it with a few episodes so that I could hate it and then be done and not watch the rest of the season, Toa. But unfortunately, I actually did like both of the episodes. So now I'm committed to this. Like I said, it's just so confusing because every time I get a good episode out of this show, it just gives me hope that it's all going to be good moving forward. But then as soon as I have that hope, it is immediately crushed by some absolutely terrible piece of shit episode.
Yeah. And you should give up on that now. Like you should give up on having hope for every episode, because I think this is appropriate when I say you should give up on that, because this is a Star Trek series. And like Star Trek, no Star Trek series has ever had, sequentially maybe like 10 fantastic episodes in a row, right? There's always been
untrue
a dud or two here and there, maybe. Okay,
untrue.
I know you're a DS9 fan. Maybe
when
DS9
you got into the later seasons
like,
of DS9 and the Dominion War arc, they're pretty much all great.
Maybe.
Yeah,
but my point is, all Trek shows have been inconsistent at times, right? I think the difference is that this show, like we've talked about in the past, gets less of a pass for that because they have less episodes. It's much more easy to forgive inconsistency when you're trying to pump out like 26 episodes.
Yes.
Like
some of them are just going to be
right?
Some of them are just going to be filler because you had to, if you're doing 26 episodes a year for 7 years straight, some episodes are going to get higher budget than others. Sometimes actors might need a break that week, so you have to come up with a story that doesn't use the entire cast, right? There's a lot of logistical problems. You may have to fall back on a on sets you've already built, because the next episode you're writing, you have to spend all your resources and time and personnel building this awesome new set. So, I think there's a lot of problems with that. But in the era of prestige TV, where we're getting 10 episodes a season, and one of the things I will give Strange New Worlds immense props for is that they're actually releasing a season a year, Doa.
Most other shows could really take note from that. It's weird to wait like 3 years for a show. I mean, I know these are big budget. I know movies take a long time to make too, but like, if you're making seasonal television, it should be. There's a reason they call it seasons, right? It goes back to the whole yearly nature of it, right? That's where the whole seasons thing comes from. So it's not really a seasonal show if it doesn't happen yearly, is it?
But also, like, one of the problems I think with TV that many people have complained about in terms of the wait between seasons of the show has been that it's really hard to remember previous plot points. You end up very disconnected from the character and the story. I mean, we can love shows like Severance, Stella, but Severance is not going to come out probably till 2027 at the earliest at this point. There's like 3 years between season. We talked about this with House of the Dragon having a couple years. But the thing about Strange New Worlds is season 4 came out a year after season 3. There was a 2-year break between season 2 and season 3.
I was going to say they took 2024 off. We got 2022,
but
23.
I'm pretty sure that had to do with the actual strike, the writer's strike.
I don't know all the details with that, but that sounds plausible for sure.
But they've already filmed season 5, so season 5 will be coming out, within a reasonable time frame of the end of season 4, and the show's over after season 5. We know that it's over. They've actually already dismantled the sets for this show. It's over. So. This is a show that is coming out within a reasonable time frame, and you know what? It feels good to have this show come out a year after season 3. Like, I can remember the things that happened. It doesn't feel like I've been waiting a long time. It feels as though we talked about season 3 not that long ago, and here it is again. So for me, this is really, again, just a big selling point for trying to actually create shows that have 1 year or less gap between seasons, because it just feels significantly better. And also, I think it's just good for the shows because they maintain cultural relevancy. We talked about this with House of the Dragon, but with Game of Thrones coming out yearly, it basically was never out of the conversation in the public zeitgeist for its entire run. And I don't think House of the Dragon has that. I don't think many shows have that at this point. There isn't a regular marketing cycle of anticipation and conversation and engagement. It's just like, oh, here it is. And then, I guess we have to wait forever. And then maybe it comes back or maybe it doesn't. And it just feels like if you have a show that is successful in its first season, please just make an order for a couple more seasons at the same time so that you can get ahead of the game and release it on an annual schedule. So I will say for Strange New Worlds, that has been great. Right. And it's a big point in its favor, I think.
Yeah, for sure. But I want to I want to jump into the episode. I just got back from Gen Con, by the way, and I am exhausted. And so if I say crazy things or my voice sounds a little bit strange, it's because I got no sleep and my voice is shot. So I'm recording this one a little bit loopy. I'm just warning you. But I want to jump into the episodes, not dump into them. That's season 3. I want to jump into the episodes for season 4. And season 4 started with a really, really good episode. There was one little thing I didn't like about it, but for the most part, I really, really did like it. And it was about time travel, which is always fun too.
Yeah. And also, what I really appreciated about this episode, Doa, was that you get the normal time travel Star Trek setup, which has happened a million times in other Star Trek episodes. And I think that Strange New Worlds is often super guilty of doing a rehash of an older Star Trek episode, but then doing it worse and then not offering anything unique. Right. And I think this one was very different than that in that you get the setup. Oh, we've traveled. Oh, no, the ship has gone back in time.
Back in time.
Don't touch anything or we could affect the future. And it's like, okay, we've seen this a million times in not only Star Trek, but everything else, right? But to this episode's defense, it goes way farther and gets way crazier than you think it would.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. On multiple levels, too. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, like, I really appreciated that they kept offering twists and changing the premise. Because effectively, the premise is, okay, they go back in time and they find themselves actually on Earth in the time of the dinosaurs, like 65 million years ago. So you're already like, okay, this is interesting. So you realize that you actually are just on Earth with dinosaurs now. And then they also show that in the far ancient past, there was a spacefaring, although not warp. They didn't have warp drive yet. So they're a pre-warp society of Martians, people from Mars, who were fighting a battle against a bug alien race on a planet between Mars and Jupiter, which obviously isn't here now. And so that's the setup for it, which is really interesting. But the way that this gets revealed throughout the episode leaves you like very invested in what's going on. And what could have been like a really dumb time travel, here are some dinosaurs episode becomes a very Star Trek-esque ethical dilemma as more and more of the plot is revealed. And it ends up being really good.
Well, the dinosaur parts of the episode are by far the worst parts of the episode. Where it's like,
it also looks
this,
terrible.
Yeah, it's got this dumb little subplot where it's like, oh, we need to get to this one area. Oh, there's a T-Rex in the way. Can we go around the T-Rex? No, it's impossible. We have to just deal with the T-Rex. And so they phaser it in the mouth, and La'an punches a velociraptor, and like, it's like that part of the episode is kind of
whatever.
I'm like, okay, whatever.
I will say
it's
it
interesting
is
that
cheesy.
That's the least.
It is cheesy in the way that the original series is cheesy, so it kind of works. And also, it looks super scuffed. Like the sets are just bad, so it is reminiscent of the low budget of some previous Star Treks.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why a lot of scenes on other planets in TNG happen in caves, because you can build a cave out of styrofoam and spray paint it real quick.
It's also the same cave every time, by the way.
Yeah, so it's right. So I feel like it kind of harkens back to that a little bit, So that's fine, but I do find it funny that the dinosaur thing, they kind of set up the episode at the beginning like the dinosaurs are going to be the main part of the episode, where it's like, we went back in time and now there's dinosaurs. It's going to be like, oh, now, because this show is, hey, look, we're doing underline fill in the blank here. Hey, look, we're doing a holodeck episode. Hey, look, we're doing a romantic comedy. Hey, look, we're doing a pirate thing or whatever, Yeah. And so this really started out like, hey, look, we're doing a Jurassic Park Run from Dinosaurs episode. So I was like, oh, great. But then, I was
very concerned.
Right, me too. I was very much ready to be like, oh, great, this is going to be terrible. But then, they introduced the Martian species and the war that they were in and all that, and they made their technology kind of interesting and mysterious. And then, that made you wondering, well, like, what happened to them, obviously, right? And so the way they tied that all together too, and like you said, brought in the dilemma too of, the whole classic, don't touch anything, butterfly effect, all that, blah, blah, to then, spoiler alert, Captain Pike decides to not stop this Martian species from destroying the bug planet, thereby
with their technology, with the technology from the Enterprise.
Right. They stole the technology from the Enterprise, destroyed the bug planet, ending billions of lives. But he realizes in the last moment that this needs to happen for Earth to, continue to develop and for humanity to spring up and for all of them to exist, So in one sense, it feels kind of gross and self-serving, but on the other sense, he's also saving the entire timeline of humanity too by sacrificing this other planet. It's a pretty great little premise.
Yeah, and it really does tie it all together very nicely too, because the Martians, realize that the Enterprise has been lying to them. because they're operating under the Prime Directive, and because they're a pre-warp society, they have to keep their technology somewhat secret, right? But they've been disabled, so they're kind of defenseless. So the Martians come, realize that they're lying and that they're actually from the future. Then they steal the technology, use it as a bomb to destroy
like warp core or something.
Yeah, to destroy the entire fifth planet, right? And this creates the asteroid belt in our solar system, and also sends a rock at Earth to kill all the dinosaurs. And that's the asteroid that hits the Yucatan, which then triggers human evolution. So,
well, then also you're forgetting too, the planet's destruction also causes Mars's orbit to change as far as its distance from the sun, causes it to cool down, and causes that entire planet to die too.
Yep.
So it destroys 2 planets. It essentially destroys 3 planets. It's just one of them, Earth, it kind of, goes on from there and evolves, right?
Well, it kills the dinosaurs, but allows for mammals to evolve into people, right? And I think like that's such I did not expect for them in this show to have such a layered and nuanced plan for all of these things.
It was very cool.
It was very cool. And I was very, very pleasantly surprised by this, but it does show the ethical dilemma because Pike is sitting there, and when he realizes they're going to bomb the planet, that's the point where he has to make a judgment call about changing the future. And we realize that without the Enterprise being there, that human evolution would not have occurred, which is a very cool thing to do. Right.
And it's the whole paradox of that too, right? The whole which came first thing, right? Because how could humanity have evolved if the Enterprise hadn't been there? And how could the Enterprise be there if humanity hadn't evolved, right? So it's the whole...
we don't think about that with time travel.
Fun, yeah. It's the whole, brain-breaking time paradox too, where it's like, which needed to happen first? And how could either of them happened first? So, yeah, it's, like I said, it's a fun time travel episode that does all the things you want a time travel episode to do. Because a lot of time travel episodes have those paradoxes that make you scratch your head. They reveal some sort of answer for why things are the way they are in the present time, and it gives you sort of like some things to do for the crew back then too, right? Some things that affect them, that they bring back to their time. So yeah,
but it really just makes
really
you
well.
wonder why this episode can have such a unique twist and also have a very Star Trek-esque central moral dilemma, but why other episodes of Strange New Worlds suck so bad. It just feels like there's nobody who's actually managing quality control on this show.
Yeah, that does seem to be the end kind of thing, is that like somebody needs to be, maybe they just don't have the person that says, hey, this idea is dumb, let's rework this episode. Because so where's the consistency? Where's somebody who's like checking the work?
Well, also if you have writers who write these really terrible episodes, and you have good writers who are writing these episodes, why exactly can you not tell the difference between the good writers and the bad writers and get rid of the bad writers? Maybe. Well,
it is possible for bad writers to write a good episode and for good writers to write a bad episode. Like it's not necessarily as black and white as that, right? But I do wonder who it is that's writing these episodes,
Because I don't know. I feel like this season just shows all of those problems. And, unfortunately, like Davy Perez, who is the guy who wrote Under the Cloak of War, which we said, I think is one of the best Star Trek episodes ever. He's not even writing this season.
Oh.
Or next season.
That's sad. Which
is a big bummer.
That is too bad. But clearly they do have other other talented writers. I gotta say too, like this episode just starts on such like a beautiful shot of them, riding horses over this like alien landscape and all that too, which is really cool. It's kind of it's a Trekkie sort of Old West thing, right? And they're in their Old West clothes and all that. And I had another slight concern for a moment there. I was like, oh no, is this going to be an Old West episode where for some reason this alien planet is like the American 1880s, or something like that. But it just ended up being a very cool horse riding scene, and we know Captain Pike really likes horses. So again, this is something that you would see in like the Next Generation, right? Where we see characters engaging in the pastimes that they enjoy. So I think that's important because it is character building, So I'm glad I thought that scene was very cool too, because that was one of those things where it's like, it's not just them riding horses. We know this is a special moment for Captain Pike because, I think the very first scene in the show or something like that, he's riding horses on Earth. So, yeah. So I like that we can have those moments now.
He keeps the saddle around.
Yeah,
too.
he's got the saddle in his room, right? Do you want to hear what the highest rated episode on IMDb is? You're gonna hate this. Can you guess which one it is?
No.
Try.
No. What is it?
It's Those Old Scientists.
Oh God, no.
In fact, Under the Cloak of War, by far the best episode of Strange New Worlds. And we're only going by the IMDb ratings, which is, it's not, these aren't like the ratings you should like set your heart on, obviously. It's just kind of fun to look at. But Under the Cloak of War was, in fact, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, was the tied for the 5th highest rated episode of that season, which is
can't wait. Tell me what a space adventure hour from last season was. That's probably super highly rated too.
The stupid episode where La'an goes back and falls in love with Kirk in an alternate universe. That episode
terrible,
is higher rated than Under the Cloak of War. IMDb ratings are worthless. Worthless.
What about A Space Adventure Hour, which was the episode about the 1960s show where they parodied the original series last season?
Oh, what's weird to me is Among the Lotus Eaters is one of the lowest rated episodes in, in season 2. Yeah, exactly. It was. A Space Adventure Hour is the second lowest rated episode of season 3. It's slightly above What is Starfleet, which I don't even remember. Oh, it's the one where like what's her face's brother is like the like reporter or something like that. Remember that? Ortega's brother comes on the ship and he's like a reporter or something. Yeah, that episode wasn't good either. Yeah, thankfully people did realize A Space Adventure Hour was a bad episode, but at least on IMDb, again, we're only going by the ridiculously inconsistent.
I just thought people would like it because it was just fan service bait, which is also Those Old Scientists, but
Well, I think there's a gigantic fan base for Lower Decks, and so that probably helped boost that one a little bit. But who actually goes on IMDb and rates things, though? Have you ever done that? I've never done that. I've never rated a movie on any platform ever.
I have on Letterboxd, but that's mostly just for myself.
I've never done any. The only ratings I've ever done for anything ever are for like businesses that really upset me. Like a car rental service once that tried to like tell me that we had smoked in the car when like neither my wife and I have like ever smoked, and tried to like rip us off or something. And then like an apartment I've lived at, like it's, I only go to rate things poorly if they really make me mad. And I'm a pretty chill guy. It's hard to make me mad, Monty. It's hard to make me truly angry. But when I do, I rate things. I've never rated a show or a movie on the internet.
I mean, I feel like I probably should get angry and rate some of these episodes at this point in time.
Well, I would rather talk to you and do like our pretend ratings at the end of the show that people can talk about instead of like click a star on a website, along with thousands of other people. Who cares? So
I think when we talked about this first episode, it was surprisingly good. So that was setting me up, Doa, for this next episode is going to be completely terrible. And yet it wasn't as good. And yet I do think that the Griffin Incident, which is where they discover this derelict spaceship called the Griffin and are trying to figure out what happened to it, was actually, again, a pretty interesting episode. Was it among the best in the series? No. Was it way better than the average episode of this series? Yes. Like, this is one of those episodes where, sure, it didn't necessarily wow me, but I had a good time watching it. It doesn't make me want to quit the show.
Yeah. Yeah, this was like your typical horror episode where it was a little bit Event Horizon-y, but your characters are in a place where their worst fears manifest in some way. And in this case, manifests in a way that leads, that kind of thing. Worst fears and insecurities manifests in a way that eventually is fatal. As it was for the entire crew of the ship, who knows how long ago, right? I think they say something like 8 years or something like that.
Yeah, so they do the like haunted ship, which obviously has been, the ghost ship has been something that goes way back in history to, sailing ships and all of that stuff. So it's not a new concept. It's also, in space, not a new concept. Warhammer does this. As you say, Event Horizon has done this. It's not even unique in Star Trek, because there's a very famous Deep Space Nine episode called Empok Nor, where they go on a space station that is identical to Deep Space Nine. It's another Cardassian space station. And when they get on there, it's empty, except they activate these basically Cardassian military assassins who have been put in stasis to protect it in case anybody goes on there. So it's another horror type episode where they're being hunted by Cardassians on the space. It's a great episode of DS9. So it's not even unique to Star Trek.
Sure.
But this is quite well executed, and the mystery is good. I think the scares are good. The fact that you never really know what's going on, the hallucinations.
They never really explain it either, which I liked. That was my favorite part of the episode.
Yeah. So there's this derelict crashed spaceship, and we get Kirk, not Sam Kirk, but James Kirk, and Spock and La'an going onto this ship, and then later they hallucinate other members of the Enterprise crew coming onto the ship as well. And it's all about them exploring the ship, trying to figure out what happened, and then falling prey to their own insecurities and fears and these hallucinations of people that they care about dying or being horrific to them in various ways. So I think it's really effective as an actual piece of horror, and the acting really sells it.
Yeah.
It reveals, you talked earlier about how this show is like Next Generation, even in episodic format, very good at having character growth. And you see that here because La'an's entire story has been, her name is Noonien Singh. She's related to Khan, right? She's been genetically modified. She has these fears and insecurities that she's losing her humanity and becoming vicious. Spock is insecure about his own Vulcanness and the fact that he's half human. And so he ends up cutting off the tips of his own ears while he's hallucinating. He hallucinates his failed relationship with T'Pring, which has been a very good part of this show, like showing that relationship, both in the comedy elements, because I do actually think the T'Pring Spock comedy. Yeah, I like that one. Okay.
No, that season 1, Spock Amok is not good. That's where him and T'Pring switch bodies.
Yes, I like that one.
What?
Yes.
I liked I thought the episode was fine where Spock becomes totally human and yet has
that
to,
one's good too.
go through all the Vulcan ceremonies and all that.
Yeah,
that was a pretty good one.
But my point is like, this has been a really good through line of this show, and to show, his paranoia about their relationship and his disappointment in the failure of their relationship, and have her be the source of cruelty, I think is really good. You also get to see Kirk and his relationship with his kid, who he's very insecure about because obviously, he has this baby mama that he's on the outs with, and he's concerned about his kid being taken away from him. So those fears come into this episode, right? So I mean, I think the character development here is honestly really excellent, and it shows a lot of core character motivations and growth. So I think this episode is surprisingly strong from a character perspective, and I enjoyed watching it from start to finish. Like I thought it was good.
The thing that I kept thinking was like, what rated is this? Like, they really went all out with the horror stuff and like the gore to a degree that I was kind of shocked that they went there, especially
for Star Trek, right?
Spoiler alert. Yeah, exactly, for Star Trek, but also for the show. This is like gore and violence on like another level, where especially with the self-mutilation stuff, where Captain Pike is cutting his hand like a carrot basically, and like just chopping off slices of it. I was like, man, this is like farther than any Star Trek show has really ever gone. Well, I take it back. Picard had a scene where some guy's eye gets plucked out, but in like slowly.
Yeah,
but anyway,
yeah,
that was different.
He got
that
stabbed
show
in the
wasn't very
heart too.
good.
But
sure, but like, I mean, it
wasn't as brutal as
before.
like Sam Kirk getting sucked into space and cut in half and his entrails spilling out.
Right,
like, this is horror. This is real horror stuff.
So part of me was like, did they go too far for Star Trek? Like, obviously they didn't go too far for horror. They barely scratched the surface. But like, was this too far for a show like Strange New Worlds, where you wouldn't expect the violence to get to this level? That said, sometimes Star Trek can kind of surprise you. I still remember being a kid and seeing that episode of Next Generation where like the worms were like inside people, those like little, and they shoot the guy and he like explodes and his top half blows up and like the worm comes out or whatever. And like, I remember as a kid being like, oh my gosh, that's like the most violent thing I've seen at this age, And that was like way farther than they ever really went in TNG. So once in a while, Star Trek does kind of do this, but I was surprised how far they went with the gore and the violence.
I would argue that Star Trek has also had a lot of body horror elements, especially with the Borg.
Sure, but this was like another level. I don't know, for me anyway, it's like the self-mutilation part of it is like extra uncomfortable. It's easier to take a monster doing something to someone. It's harder to take watching one of the characters do something to themselves, which I think adds to the horror element, right? But it also adds to like, is this too far for this show?
I mean, I didn't even find the violence or the self-mutilation the most offensive part of this episode, Doa. The most offensive part of this episode was Kirk saying, "Let's boldly go," and then they boldly went.
Yes,
that was offensive.
That did make me roll my eyes when, a little bit of how the sausage is made when Monty messaged me with the link to jump on, our recording software. He's like, it's time. I just replied with, let's boldly go. Because,
when he's just standing there in the shuttle and he's like, let's boldly go. And then they boldly went. I was like, no, give me a fucking break.
Just don't.
I didn't find the self-mutilation gratuitous. I found that line gratuitous.
That's like writing self-mutilation, basically.
And also, it was writing self-mutilation. Yeah. But this is also where, again, I felt just a pervasive sense of dread watching this show.
It made me feel a little bit ill too, in a way.
Where's this going?
Yeah, the blood and guts didn't make me feel as ill as that line did, I'll be honest.
No, but it's at the start of the episode, so when he says that, I'm like, oh god, this is going to be a piece of shit episode. And then it
sometimes, Monty, you need what's called a trailer line. Sometimes you need your characters to say something where you can just cut that out in isolation and put it in a trailer. And that's the type of line that is, where it's like, you're like, okay, take that scene, cut that like 2 seconds, and we'll use that in the trailer somewhere. If we get Kirk saying, let's boldly go, we can put that in the trailer, and some Trek fan's going to be like, oh, they're boldly going because it's Star Trek and it's Kirk. Yeah. So, I mean, that's a trailer line. That's just a trailer line. It's dumb, but it's ultimately kind of throwaway. But yeah, again, like, and like, as far as the gore goes, again, like I said, they barely scratch the surface as far as like true like horror films and all that kind of stuff go to. But again, for this show, it was extreme,
Yeah.
So I was surprised.
But I didn't think it was surprising, but I didn't find it out of place. Like I enjoyed it. So
it didn't make me as ill as like Samuel L. Jackson kissing a squirrel. That just made me uncomfortable. I just felt bad for everybody involved in that. That's what made me kind of feel weirded out by it, I've seen worse things. We've seen things making this show, Monty. We've watched 80s fantasy films. We saw Sorceress.
Yeah. Oh God. Also, I want to go back to your point about not explaining this, because similarly to the gore, this show is very un-Star Trek-like in that there is no explanation for the phenomenon, right? The whole formula of Star Trek is, here's this weird thing that's happening. We are going to scientifically analyze it and arrive at some sort of logical explanation.
Yeah. By the end of the episode,
obviously,
we'll know. Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously that was somewhat subverted in DS9 because, the idea of the wormhole aliens and, the prophets did subvert that, because the whole point was that this is the collision of the scientific logical federation against the Bajoran religion. And some things like these beings exist in a different, perception of space-time. And like, you're never really going to understand what the hell they're doing or why they're doing it. So that was cool. So I'm not saying like this hasn't been done before, but
sure.
I fully expected there to be some explanation at the end of this episode. And the way the episode ends is that this is being towed away to be analyzed by a special division of the Federation. And I honestly hope that what happens is that we later on this season or next season get some sort of follow-up to this. Like I would love
imagine,
for this to become a recurring plot point of what happened to the Griffin? Is there something bigger at work here? Is there going to be another crisis as they try and analyze what happened to the ship? Like, I want this to return because I feel like this can actually be closed out in a very satisfying way.
It almost felt like they were trying to set up another series, and I think you could look at it two different ways. TNG, other series did this in Star Trek where they had an episode like this and that set up future episodes where it's like, we're going to get a Division 12 episode at some point. But knowing the way things work in today's streaming world, it almost felt to me like they were setting up a Division 12 series where it's like, what if we had an X-Files Star Trek show where, in a universe where everything can be explained through science, what happens when there's something you just can't explain? Well, then we've got Division 12. So throwing that element into Star Trek is a little bit intriguing. Is it very Star Trek? But I don't know. But I think it could make for a good show. So I'm with you. I hope we at least get another episode, with Division 12 in it, where it's a Division 12 centric episode.
Right. It is in keeping that's, basically Strange New Worlds does genre plays, or they do mimic other kinds of TV shows, and they are clearly setting up for like Star Trek X-Files here, which I think actually sounds dope. So
like I said, that
I'm
could
not
be
averse
serious
to that at all.
I'm fine with that.
This message is sponsored by Raycon. We often talk on this show how Star Trek Strange New Worlds has a really big variable in quality. Sometimes the episodes are great, sometimes they're downright awful. But what never varies in quality is Raycon headphones. And right now, you can check out their essential open earbuds, which you can see right here. As you can tell, these actually wrap around the outside of your ears, so they don't go inside the ear canal at all. They have a really flexible ear hook right here, goes around the outside of your ear, and they sit right on the outside. They're super comfortable, but also they're secure enough to stay on. I've gone jogging with them on the treadmill and used them in the gym, and they are very secure. So if you want to hear everything that's going on around you, particularly if you're outside and you might be jogging and you need to hear for any possible signs of danger while you're crossing the street, these are really good options. Or if you just simply don't like headphones in your ear canals. Raycon has over 3 million customers, and the sound quality is just as good as the way more expensive brands. The way they can make sure that's true is because they don't operate brick and mortar stores, so they can sell directly to you and you pick up the savings. Plus, if you don't like them, they have a 30-day happiness guarantee, so there's really no risk. If you want something that actually goes into your ear canals, you can check out their essential everyday earbuds as well. Those have active noise cancellation if you like that feature. I've used that feature many times. I was just on a plane back to Korea from America. I used it again. It works fantastically to block out that noise and really lock in on your music or your podcast or whatever you are listening to. So the essential open earbuds are the perfect back to school companion. Go to buyraycon.com/nerdlegionopen to get 20% off. And thank you very much to Raycon for sponsoring our show. We love your products.
I hated one part of the end of this episode where they zoomed in on the ship, right? And it's like the ghost lady and she's like going like this, very horror ending and all that. But the effect looked really bad because it seemed like the size she would have to be on the ship would be like 20 feet tall to be that big and like that visible in one of those tiny windows on that scale of starship off in the distance. Maybe they just have
telescope eyes, enhanced.
And I thought maybe, right? Or like, maybe this entity is appearing very large so that La'an can see her. But I just thought when they zoomed in, it looked like one of those old cheesy effects where they don't quite understand scale and like the person is way bigger in the window than they should be.
It was also just badly done. I actually didn't mind the fact that they showed her on the ship afterwards, because that implies that this is following La'an off the ship. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It adds more intrigue because then you wonder, maybe, is she still hallucinating when she's off the ship?
Or is La'an possessed by a ghost?
Yeah. Or, is this thing actually real? And was it not a hallucination? They just couldn't register it on their instruments. Right. So I did think that was like a neat twist at the end. And I like I said, I hope they follow up on this because I think the follow-up could be very cool. Not that they have to, like, you could just leave this as well.
Sure.
And not upset by it. But I do think that this is the kind of thing that you can plant seeds with that you can do a lot more with later on. That would be very
they were very, 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 very clearly planting a seed with this episode. They brought up Division 12 all night. This seems like the kind of thing Division 12 would handle, like multiple times during the episode. And you're like, okay, we get it. Yeah, well, there's going to be a Division 12 episode at some point in the future. It's cool. I like that. But yeah, it was a very obvious setup. And I think that's one of the reasons you can leave it unexplained is because they're kind of saying, don't worry, we'll get to it later. It's Division 12's job,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, look, I think this is really enjoyable. And
so far, so good.
We talked about how with most Star Trek shows in the past, it has taken a few seasons for them to really hit their groove. Like, we conveniently delete the bad seasons or the bad episodes of, Next Gen and DS9, season 1, season 2, even season 3 from our memories because the later seasons really make up for it. But I hope that this pattern holds true and like season 4 and season 5 are actually good. But then it just also raises the question of, why does this show have to end right when they're figuring out what it's going to be and how best to utilize the characters?
Well, I think part of it is I think even Next Gen and DS9 didn't go more than 6 seasons, right? I think
7.
They were
7.
Was it 7? Okay, so. Yeah, I mean, you could go a little bit more time, but it's not like the other shows were really that much longer. Then again, they felt much, much, much longer because of the quantity of episodes.
They have like 4 times as many episodes, but okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but still, like, I think you're probably getting to the point where the actors don't want to commit any more of their lives to this, So I think that's probably part of it too.
You also, in this particular series,
don't want to move on.
In this particular series, you literally run up into the original series. And so how much can you do before you actually have to resolve the plot points that result in Kirk taking command, right?
Right.
And also, they have a bunch of characters that are in the original series that continue on with the Enterprise even as Pike leaves. Mm-hmm. So, you have to develop those characters to the point where they would be in the original series. So, there are some constraints that didn't really exist with the other shows.
Who's going to die? Who's going to go elsewhere in Starfleet to the point where we're not wondering where they were, this whole time?
They've already set up the Pike promotion thing, right? Which is, they're like, well, you could be promoted, Pike. And he's like, I don't want to yet. But
didn't some horrible accident happen to him or something like that? Like he was, wasn't he like scarred and in a wheelchair?
Well, that was already
like
foreshadowed.
Right. But I'm saying, like, what if I would imagine they're just going to end with that versus the promotion.
Anyway,
who knows?
Yeah, the point is like you're running into a real barrier as well. And I think this is a good time to talk about what they are going to do with Star Trek, because basically, this is the first time in many years at this point in time. So there was a long period of time where there was no Star Trek in production. Yeah. And then they basically decided to unleash a bunch of shows simultaneously. Use it as one of the tent poles with Paramount Plus alongside Yellowstone, right? These are the 2 big franchises that Paramount Plus has in terms of TV. Mm-hmm. And now, for the first time in a long time, there's no Star Trek in production. Starfleet Academy was canceled. Mercifully, it was put out of its misery.
I mean,
absolutely.
I know a lot of people worked hard on that, but that show was terrible.
Absolute terrible show. And it's not coming back either. Again, they dismantled all the sets, so it is over. Strange New Worlds has wrapped filming already on season 5. The sets have been dismantled. Prodigy was ended. Lower Decks was ended. Discovery was ended. So, and then we got that absolutely abysmal Section 31 movie. Maybe one of the worst things I've ever seen.
A lot of people have already forgotten that existed, but we haven't forgotten. That was
so now there's nothing. There is no Star Trek in production. And so where do you go from here? That's, I do think that, Alex Kurtzman and Akiva Goldsman are terrorists of this franchise and should be removed immediately. But is there an opportunity now with the failure of Starfleet Academy for some other person to take the creative reins and start developing some new shows? Because obviously with the right audience, there's a demand. The problem with Starfleet Academy was that it was bad. I mean, number one, it was just fucking bad. But also, who was the audience for this? Because it wasn't there for the hardcore Star Trek fans. And it wasn't interesting to a new generation of Zoomers who wanted some fucking, teenage college coming of age story. So who is it for? Nobody. And, that show had a massive budget, but I think at least myself and probably a lot of other Star Trek fans, I don't need this show to have a massive budget. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
Can't we just do a show that was in the same kind of level of budget as TNG or DS9 and just commit more efforts to writing than anything else and get just a mid-budget good Star Trek show? Because that's what I would love to see. If you have the right creative direction, as we've seen, and you just let people run with it, you can create very good content. So let's do that.
Yeah, I agree. I'm definitely agreeing with you. Why not?
But who knows?
Or just stop making Star Trek and make something completely different and new. Honestly, Do you need to make more Star Trek? Do we need to make more Star Wars even? Can we just
you
have
do for money
things?
reasons.
But
it comes with a built-in audience. But the problem with doing that is both Star Trek and Star Wars have alienated their core audience to the point where it's really hard to even like the world anymore because they've fucked it up so badly. So, how much cachet does the Star Wars or Star Trek name really carry anymore is a good question. But clearly it's a better starting point to get an audience than not having that name.
Sure.
So I don't know. And maybe we do go through another long period where we don't have any Star Trek shows. I mean, Star Trek went, a decade plus having no new movies, no new shows, nothing, no new content whatsoever before this latest round of revival. Probably some of it will depend on how this season and next season of Strange New Worlds do, but I hope we at least get something. I would just like Paramount to put some level of money behind this and just actually give it to people who care about the core Star Trek experience at a lower budget and then see what we can do.
Well, I think we'll have Warhammer to come and save our space franchises. It's not going to be the same tone,
maybe,
probably, but maybe Warhammer will do it. They just announced that Henry Cavill, I think, is executive producing a Warhammer animated series, and then he's starring, of course, in that live action series that Amazon is making. So we've got at least 2 confirmed Warhammer series coming now. And that is a universe that is extremely different from Star Trek. There's not much positivity in the future in Warhammer. In fact, there's only war, as I've heard. So it's again very totally different. But hey,
how much hammer,
science fiction? I mean, there's more hammer in the fantasy side of things, but there are hammers in the 40K side too, just not as many. It's more bolters and plasma rifles and things like that.
Yeah, but obviously that has immense potential. But
for sure, yeah,
I will always love Star Trek. I love the concept of Star Trek, and I love the hopefulness of Star Trek. So I hope that we can actually get something done. Some of us still pining for some decent content post DS9 in the timeline. I'm personally very tired of prequels in Star Trek. I really am sick of before the original series and around the original series. I really want more stuff in the post Dominion War timeline.
We can just do another Star Trek with the Enterprise and its crew. There will be another Enterprise doing the same thing, probably.
Yep.
We could just have a new Enterprise crew.
It was kind of made next generation.
Yeah, it was kind of made to be that way, and I think that's fine, right? Because this is supposed to be the story of not even a ship, but the story of the name of a ship, right? And the different ships that bear that name, the different crews that sailed her through the stars, right? Trekked through the stars, if you were, boldly went. So I think you can totally just make a new Star Trek. And have it be about the Enterprise, and like you're saying, have it be set, shortly after the Dominion War, and say what's next, and that's fine, in a way, they kind of did that with Picard season 3. It wasn't really the same sort of Trek tone, but at least it was a little bit of what happens next, kind of, So we've got a little bit to go on there, but I don't know. Or you could just not make any more Star Trek and could just make new things that are good.
Well, we know that's impossible. So
it's not impossible. People just are refusing to do it right now, but they'll learn.
Well, it's not like the new sci-fi series have been great. We were tortured by Rebel Moon repeatedly on this show.
Yeah, we were. Yeah, that's Rebel Moon. Wow, that's a name I felt like I excised from my brain, but now it's back again. Which is funny because for my birthday, what was it, like 2 years ago, a year ago or something? My little brother got me a Gunnar Funko Pop. And so in retaliation, I bought him like 3 because they were like $2 on Amazon or something because nobody's buying them. So I just bought him like 3 of them. Yeah.
By the way, just as an aside for the future, the Neuromancer trailer has been released, which honestly, I'm rereading Neuromancer right now. It looks pretty good.
Okay.
Apple TV has done a lot of good stuff with sci-fi, so I am cautiously optimistic. I also just feel that the timing of Neuromancer is really good because of the AI themes in it.
Yeah.
This is a time where I think they can do a lot with that and make it quite profound. So I am very optimistic about Neuromancer because I think it looks right. They filmed it in like real locations in Japan, it looked like, which is good that we're not getting a bunch of CGI slop. I was very impressed.
Yeah, the trailer looked good. I'm excited about it too. There's a new Gundam series on the horizon that they just announced.
I saw that
too.
It had another equally unpronounceable name.
Yeah, I forget exactly how you're supposed to pronounce it, but it's not how it looks at all. Again, but it looks interesting. The premise looks good, so we'll see what happens with it. But we'll see. And then there's also, don't forget, there's the Gundam live action movie that's being made too.
I know. Well, we'll definitely watch that.
Starring Sydney Sweeney, the star of Madam Web. Actually, no, she wasn't the star of Madam Web, but she was in Madam Web. And the other person who was in Madam Web as a star was the person who was in the 50 Shades of Grey movie. I remember that. Monty made me see it. He's a huge 50 Shades of Grey fan. Let's see. What else? Yeah, sure. That's what you would say on the podcast. What else? I don't know. Anyway, it's a Gundam movie with Sydney Sweeney. God help us all. But we'll see what happens.
Well, Neuromancer is coming out in January of next year, so very exciting. I'm very optimistic about this. I think Apple TV will do a good job with it. So it'll be cool. All right, guys, that'll do it for us. We'll catch you next time.